Lonsdale. Welcome to American Optimist. Honored to have my friend Kimbal Musk joining us here today. Thanks, Kimbal.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Really excited to talk about a lot of things you're doing, but I want to start off maybe with a little bit of your background. You guys grew up in South Africa. So
yeah.
What did you get the entrepreneurial bug from that?
Yeah, I mean, we grew up in South Africa, super entrepreneurial. My grandfather, our grandfather, was an explorer in Africa. So he'd take his plane, like a Cessna 182, and fly it low over Southern Africa and map many parts of Southern Africa. He was a winner of the Cape to Cairo race, where you take a car and you basically just make it from Cape Town to Cairo. I think that's how he won. He was the only guy that made it.
Wow!
And so that was in 1958. So very pioneering entrepreneurial spirit.
Did the car break down on the way and you had to fix it? Or
many times. And it starts out with 20 competitors, and he was the only guy to finish. So that sort of culture we grew up with around getting out there, adventure, and I think entrepreneurialism is all about adventure and going out and not knowing exactly what you're going to find, but being willing to go for it.
So why did you decide to come to Silicon Valley in the 90s? What
Sure. I mean, we grew up in South Africa, and tough place to grow up in. Apartheid. Not a lot. We lived in the hometown of apartheid in Pretoria, which really not a wonderful place to grow up. So we just fantasized about America, and we just looked at it like the promised land. So there was no question that we were going to make our way to America at some point. I went to university in Canada, in Queen's University. My mother's Canadian. My mother had a Canadian passport. She was South African, but had a passport. And our family, bizarrely, the same guy who toured, who mapped Africa, he's an American from Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
And his dad was a sheriff in Minnesota.
Oh, so you were American, South African.
Like back in the 1800s.
Oh, wow.
And so then he married his wife, who was Canadian. My mom was born, and 2 years later they moved to South Africa. And he that's what he did. He explored Africa.
Wow.
So we had this American sort of bug in our but frankly, the whole world loves and believes in the American dream, so much so that it's for us it was just not a choice. We were going to find out.
Are you still bullish on America?
I love America. I mean, I'm always a believer that show me a better place. Like I'm always open to ideas. I mean, I like to say, I live in Colorado, which is a beautiful, beautiful part of America. And people will say to me, why do you live in Colorado? I say, well, because it's the best place. Why do I live in America? Because it's the best place. And I'm an immigrant, so I can choose to live in Europe if I want to. Doesn't do it for me. I could live in China. Doesn't do it for me. These are interesting places. There's a few other places in the world to consider. But America is just far and away the best.
And so you came to America, and you guys started the company in Silicon Valley. You come to start the company? You started after you got here? What was?
No, we started it actually in Canada and Philadelphia. My brother was in UPenn, and I was in Queen's University in Canada. And we started it up there. Elon went and did a summer job in Silicon Valley. But on the side, and I did a summer job in Toronto. Mm-hmm. On the side, we were working on our startup, which we built the maps and door-to-door directions for the internet.
It's called Zip2.
Zip2, right? Yeah. It was super cool technology. We were the first two humans to see maps and door-to-door directions on the internet. I mean, it was jaw-dropping to see that this was possible. And we could not get investors. We couldn't get investors even in Silicon Valley in 95. They were really still in the packaged software world of... Yep. You're supposed to put it in a cardboard box. It's sold at a store, and people upload it on their computer. The internet was a new thing, and Toronto they were still stuck at at least 10 years behind Silicon Valley, and so I just had to bite the bullet, go down to Silicon Valley. My brother had to bite the bullet to not do his PhD, so that was sort of mid 95, and then we kept working on it, and we had no money. We slept in our office because we could pay rent either an office or a house. And we're like, we'll just do the office.
You guys, I heard you pretend that you weren't sleeping there. So
yeah, well, it's not cool to sleep in your office.
It's cool in retrospect.
Yeah, cool in retrospect. In the moment, no, not cool. Yeah. Also, your engineers don't want to think you're, because we had hired a few engineers.
Yeah, I think you're homeless.
Right, exactly. But it's still great memories, as you say. It's great in retrospect. But what happened between middle of 95 when we committed to it to January of 96 was this realization of the internet was sort of hitting. And we had been working on this business for a year at that point and committed ourselves entirely to it. And all of a sudden, we had VCs knocking on our door.
All of a sudden, everyone wants to give you money.
Oh my goodness. We went from begging for dollars to looking at term sheets with millions of dollars. I mean, we were 22 and 23 years old. Just couldn't believe it. Yeah. We were like, these guys are crazy. And
who'd you end up raising from?
More David Out.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and it was a good firm. We had a lot of options. We liked those guys, and it was an interesting time. And we were young entrepreneurs. We really didn't know what we were doing.
What made you trust those guys more than others? Like, how'd you choose a VC when you were that young? And how would you do it differently now?
I think we made a good choice. I think a good question how I would do it differently. I would do it based on which partner, not the firm at all, but which partner you feel like will be the best partner at the firm.
Yep.
That you would be the best partner with you at the business.
Person matters.
The person matters entirely, 100%. And you can get a great firm, and you can get a weak partner, or just the wrong partner, or you can get a firm you've never heard of, and you can get a great partner. So I think that's absolutely what I would focus on. And I think we did okay that way. I can't speak for the ones we chose not to work with because I don't really remember who they were. But we felt good about them. In fact, George Zachary is a good friend of ours. He was with More David Out at the time, and he wasn't the partner that we ended up working with. But in general, that was the culture, and it was a good group.
Awesome. So you guys crushed it. You sold Zip2 in 99, and I understand you enrolled at the French Culinary Institute. A lot of us like food and we admire, but you usually went all in. You actually enrolled at the Institute. How did that come about?
Yeah, so we sold Zip2 in 99. It was a great time to sell. It was an extraordinary time. We were acquired by Compaq that owned Alta Vista. They wanted to merge Zip2 and Alta Vista together.
Makes sense. Yep. And
then it would be a Yahoo killer.
Yep.
So we sold our company for $300 million in cash.
At the time, that was a lot of money.
Actual cash, like no stock, no. Wow. They would not give us stock.
Wow.
It was such a surreal time where they would not give us stock.
Wow.
They wanted to own the stock because everything was just going through the roof.
Yeah, skyrocketing. Yeah.
And they merged Alta Vista and Zip2, and then Yahoo ended up buying it 6 months later for what was our share of the company was worth $1 billion. So we felt like we did.
So you felt you got gypped,
we kind of got you can't really argue with cash, but we were like, oh my goodness, we really lost out here.
Did you take the money and invest it into tech stocks at all?
Well, I invested in PayPal, and it's not just Tesla and so forth. It's all. I'm not at all worried about my outcome. But then, amazingly, of course, the bubble burst 6 months later, and it was just an extraordinary time.
Yeah, well, PayPal is one of the few things that lived through the bubble bursting,
exactly,
so you did a good job with that one.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that I can't really complain about the situation. It was a wonderful, interesting time. But my passion was a culture, food, people, gathering. And Palo Alto is a place where people work. They work 24/7, and some of the best companies in the world are built out of that culture. And I wanted a place where I could experience people, where we had things to talk about that weren't just the work.
So there was better work-life balance at the French Culinary Institute than there was.
Well, no, actually, not at all. No? Actually, those guys are terrible at work-life balance. In fact, it's more like Full Metal Jacket.
Really?
Oh my God,
so
it's hardcore. It's just, I used to say I'm going to go get screamed at for 6 hours.
Wow.
It's so intense. It's more New York. I wanted to go to New York. I wanted to see a different part of America. Again, I'm an immigrant, so for me, I wasn't beholden to any particular place. So it's
probably more fun to be successful and young and single in New York than Palo Alto.
Yeah, I wasn't single. I was had my girlfriend, and we ended up getting married and stuff. So it was a wonderful time to be in New York, and signed up to be in the French Culinary Institute on the advice of a friend of mine and my wife at the time, which was, you got to have something to do in New York, or New York will consume you. And so I said, okay, well, I always wanted to cook, so I'll go sign up for this.
Are you a much better chef now because of this?
Oh my God, the training is amazing. They break you down. They make you cry. Like, it's literally to that level of torture. And then they build you back up again, and it's old school, kind of Gordon Ramsay style of teaching.
Were you already really passionate about food before?
Always. I grew up cooking for my family, loved cooking for my friends in college. That was my sort of gift to my friends and family, and continues to be to this day. And so I was like, let me go do this, not with any intention to do a restaurant. But I actually, the most incredible thing happened to me. I graduated in August of 2001, a few weeks before 9/11, and was in downtown, about Chambers and Broadway, right 10 blocks from the World Trade Centers.
Wow.
Woke up to the sounds of the planes hitting the building.
Wow.
Like the first one hit, and I was like, what was that? And the doorman was sort of screaming, the plane hit the building, plane hit the building. I was like, some idiot just flew a plane into the building. I'm like, you're in New York, so everything is.
You assume it's a small
You're so
plane.
jaded in New York, like whatever. So I go take a shower. I tell my girlfriend at the time, my wife at the time, hey, I'm gonna go get us some coffee at the deli across the road. Go down the elevator. I come out of the elevator, and the doorman said, another plane's hit the building. Another plane's hit the building. All this time, I could have looked out my window and seen the World Trade Centers burning, but I just didn't.
You just missed it. Wow.
I just didn't look at it. Went across to the deli, and weirdly, there's 30 or 40 people in line in the deli, which that's just not normal.
Yeah.
So I think everyone was kind of freaking out a little bit. They didn't know what to do, but no one was panicking. And I put my dollars down. I skipped the line because they know me. I'm there all the time. I get my coffee, and as I'm paying, on the radio they say the Pentagon was hit by a plane.
So then you knew.
Holy moly! The panic just sets in. Everyone just starts running.
Wow.
I run upstairs, not using the elevator, grab my wife, we run down, we just start running. And we get to Canal Street by the time the first one falls. Well, you don't see it fall because again, you have tall buildings in front of you, but you just see this giant wall of dust coming towards you. Stopped about half a block from us, thank goodness. Cops and other people just driving out of the cloud of dust, just covered in white dust. We get to Union Square, we see the second one fall, and then you have like a direct view of it falling, and it was like reality breaking. And so anyways, we haul up in my mother's place, and about 7 days in, they start calling for volunteers to cook. My mother's a well-known dietitian. They call her up, hey, we want to offer a volunteer spot, because everyone wants to volunteer. It's that's the thing to do. And she said, well, my son can cook. She can't. And they're like, well, what is his credentials? Just had a diploma from the French Culinary Institute. So I got that, and then I had a security pass because I lived so close to the ground zero. So I ended up cooking for the firefighters for 6 weeks, like every day, 16 hours a day.
Wow.
Starting peeling potatoes all the way to driving ATVs of coolers of delicious food down to them. And, you feed the firefighters, you see them walk into this gymnasium that's converted to a cafeteria.
It was really satisfying as a way to at least
Oh
contribute.
my God, it was just wonderful. They come in like kind of covered in that dust, that ugly dust, the World Ground Zero dust, and then they take their shells off and they start eating food, and they're not even talking to anyone, and then the life just starts coming back into them.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And just after that experience, I was like, I just got to do a restaurant. I just love this.
That's
This
awesome.
is just awesome.
The sense of giving that to others, giving that energy to others.
Creating that feeling of community, of connecting people through food. It took this concept of food with a gathering place to a whole new level, of course, 9/11 being, of course, the most extreme you could imagine. And then we opened, I did a road trip around the U.S., founding a place. That's how I found Colorado. So Colorado's awesome.
Yep.
And I did a road trip in February, when it's the worst time of the year. Mm-hmm. And Boulder, Colorado is right on the mountains, crisp air. It can be a little cold in February, but it's very nice and sunny. And it's a great restaurant town. So opened a restaurant called The Kitchen in Boulder. Still there today. It's considered one of the top restaurants in the country.
And you're obviously a very ambitious entrepreneur, so you've done a lot of restaurants now.
Yeah, I've done 16 restaurants now. So although unfortunately because of COVID, we might come out of this with 8 to 10.
It's been a tough year for the restaurant industry.
Well, I think one of oh my God, more than tough, like a nuclear bomb has gone off. And I think the challenge as well is when you have restaurants in Colorado you can drive to, that you can manage. But when you have to fly and you have to manage people from a distance.
During COVID, that's very difficult.
Impossible.
Yeah.
And so the ones out of state we had to close. And we're going to reopen a few. We just opened Chicago. We'll see how that goes. But it's not going well, I'll be honest. It's very very, very quiet right now. Downtown Chicago, downtown Denver, no offices, no business travel, no tourism.
Yeah.
I feel for the independent restaurant community, and it's going to be a tough return. There's a beauty to it, though. I mean, we all are in the business. No one's in this business to make money. You're in this business because you love it.
Yep.
And there's that love that will bring it back.
And you're obviously very passionate about food in other areas as well. You're recently announcing a new program in this area.
Yeah, we just announced the Million Gardens movement, and you can go to million-gardens.org, and there what we're doing is we're distributing gardens to. We hope to 1 million homes this year in North America.
You've done this with schools and others before, too.
Yeah, so Big Green, our nonprofit, is a nonprofit. It's been around 10 years, and we build these beautiful outdoor classrooms on school grounds, about 2,000 square feet in size, shade structures, raised up, irrigation's built in, easy to manage, beautiful, beautiful part of the school. And we've done 700 of those around the country.
And what's the impact of those? Why is
that's amazing. So we focus on K through 8, kindergarten through 8th grade. In 5th grade, if you teach a science lesson, the same science lesson in the garden versus the classroom, you see a 15-point increase on a 100-point scale in test scores. So
kids just pay attention and they're more inspired.
Absolutely, it's experiential. You're getting your hands dirty. The sun is shining. You're just much more awake as a person. But then it's experiential, so you'll never forget it. And then of course on the food side, you can double their intake of fruits and vegetables. So
so there's a lot of people.
The impact is extraordinary. In fact, the studies will come out of Austin, Texas. So there's a famous group called the Rainwater Foundation that did. They were kind of pre-Big Green, in the 2000s, and the foundation's still around. But the idea of a proper outdoor classroom is sort of their sort of idea. In addition to folks like Alice Waters and so forth, but these guys were more scalable. And so we borrowed from them. We borrowed it from Alice Waters' Edible Schoolyards to learn what could work. And we achieved, a scale of 700 pre-COVID.
What are the types of fruits and vegetables that you guys grow?
Yeah, so we love to grow things kids love to eat. So we'll do a pizza garden where it's tomatoes, and we just do cherry tomatoes throughout, and we'll do a larger tomato so they can actually taste the difference and get a feel for that. We'll do a salsa garden with cilantro and onions, and so we really try and speak the language of the kids, and it's super fun. So we do that.
So now you're going to try to get 1 million of these around the country.
Well, one of the things we dealt with COVID is all the schools are shut down. Yeah. So last year we created these gardens. They're about 12 inches wide, 12 inches high, and you can still grow quite a bit of food in there with good soil and good seedlings. And we distributed 5,000 in Chicago, 1,500 in Memphis as a test. Hugely successful. Families lined up around the corner to get them. And we're like, wow, we're really onto something here. Let's see what we could do to bring it to more people. And at the same time, Modern Farmer, the magazine, reached out to us and said they want to do this Million Gardens movement. So it was kind of a perfect blend of two groups. They have a wonderful community of readers that care about the subject. We have distribution in low-income areas where we work in these schools. And so together we formed the Million Gardens movement, and it's off to the races. We have these billboards we did with Harrison Ford, with Selma Hayek, with Zooey Deschanel, several others.
What are you encouraging people to build them at their homes, or are you encouraging people to contribute to them?
So anyone listening to this podcast should go to million-gardens.org and donate $10, $20 towards getting gardens into the homes of underserved families across America and Canada. We're hoping to do Mexico as well. And eventually we'll go international, but that's where we're focused for now. So go to million-gardens.org. Awesome. And it's a beautiful program. We're going to do potatoes in the spring. So when you harvest potatoes, it's like digging for gold. So we think it's the most fun one for us to do in these sort of little green gardens. And then we're going to do tomatoes in June. We'll do that around the summer.
You're going to send the seeds to people to help them with this, or how's that?
We will. They actually pick up the garden itself, so you can carry it with two hands.
Oh, great!
And these are low income communities, so they're walking there. So you got to be able to walk it back.
Yep. And
it's a fun thing to do with your kids, and we distribute it through the schools.
That's great.
And then actually in Chicago, the food shelter is partnering with us, and what they're going to do is they're going to give away a package of food with the little green garden. So you don't just get to grow it, you get some healthy food to eat as well. So that's wonderful. And then in the fall, we'll do fall vegetables. And so Million Gardens movement is just is a super exciting thing. We're able to do it whether it's COVID or not. This is the kind of thing we think will reach a lot of people.
It's very inspiring. So Kimbal, you're also a board member at both Tesla and SpaceX. I guess I probably can't ask you what's your favorite one, but what are you excited about with these companies right now?
I mean, honestly, it's such an honor to be part of those two amazing companies. So proud of my brother for his ability to, I mean, I think he's the world's greatest engineer and entrepreneur, and just so honored to be able to have a front row seat there. Both companies are great. I think that what I love about Tesla is it's really an American-made company. And it's in the car world, that's first time in 100 years. So it's there are some startups coming along, and I wish them the best. But Tesla is like a real car company.
A lot of people said it's impossible to start a new car company.
Totally, we heard that forever, and we still kind of hear that occasionally, to be honest. People still don't believe it.
You've had profitable quarters now. I mean, that's pretty good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we're going to open the factory in Austin. It's going to be a game changer for the city. I'm very proud of that.
It's amazing. You guys have this giant building you're building there really fast. I was talking to Omid about
but the whole
day.
thing done in about a year, 12 months, at 15 million square feet factory, and hopefully have cars being produced there within, by the end of 2021. It's pretty amazing.
It's so inspiring. People thought people in America couldn't build things that quickly. Like, how do you guys change the culture to get that people to work that hard and that quickly?
I think my brother just looks at it from a first principle point of view, where why not? Why can't you do that? It's just pylons in the ground and walls and steel, and there's a culture in building in America that is very slow, and it isn't necessary. I mean, maybe there are reasons you might do it, but in the case of Tesla, we've built several of these factories already, so we don't need new plans or new permits not permits. We don't need to rethink the ideas. There's some optimizing from our previous learnings, but for the most part, we know what we're doing. And so it shouldn't take 5-10 years to build a factory. We found the city of Austin a great partner. They moved very fast, enabled us to build a factory in Austin city limits at a speed that just it's shocking to any manufacturing person, even in China, would be shocked.
It's amazing. And what are you excited about over the next 10 or 20 years there? What should we expect to see?
Yeah, I'm excited about just an amazing American company building not just the best cars in the world, but electric cars, better for the environment. The autonomy is going to come, and how does that change the way we live, the cities we're in? I'm very excited about that subject. So, and I just think that it's going to be it's only just the beginning of what it's going to create.
And let's go to SpaceX for a little bit.
Sure,
We've obviously had, Starlink's very exciting. One of my favorite things with SpaceX, other than going to Mars, is that you can maybe hop around on the planet really quickly. Is that a real thing that's going to come in the next decade or two, or what's the timeline on that?
So the ability to land a rocket is new, right? So that's literally in the past 3 years that my brother's proven it can be done safely and consistently over and over again. And so it's similar to an airplane 100 years ago. When they first took off with an airplane,
still a little risky.
They didn't think about the landing, And so you want to wait a while until everybody thought about the landing. So give SpaceX a few years, they'll be really consistent and 100% success.
And once they're that consistent, maybe people should start thinking
Why
about
not? I mean, if you look at Starship, it's big. It's the actual fuselage is bigger than a 747.
So you theoretically could carry hundreds of people.
Yes, exactly. And you take off in Texas and you land in Australia 30 minutes later.
That's amazing. You think that could actually get to the point where it's cost competitive?
I don't think it's going to be a cost thing. I think it's just whether or not SpaceX chooses to prioritize it. My brother is so passionate about Mars that's where his love and his energy is going. And as a side project, or maybe as a way to finance Mars, he might do that as well.
So Starlink and maybe transportation could finance the Mars.
Yeah,
mission.
exactly. It's really about Mars for him. It always has been from 20 years ago when he started the company.
What are other ways to monetize the space industry? Actually, what are the other ideas that you can share?
I think that we just don't really think about monetization that much at SpaceX. It needs to be cash flow positive. It needs to generate value. It needs to be a good thing for the world.
Well, it needs to make money in order to get to Mars.
It can't finance Mars if it's costing money, so
Exactly.
for sure. And my brother really got to a point where he ran out of capital back in 2008. And
Yep.
thank goodness NASA, our partner in the government, came through with a contract that kept us alive.
I remember right around that time, I think I got to co-invest along with Founders Fund, I think the year
cool.
after.
Yeah, that was good. Thank you guys for coming in
Yeah.
and helping the company get through that tough time. But the truth is it's expensive to build rockets, and it takes a long time to make money. And it just never really had that culture of well, this has got to be a moneymaker. It's more about it's got to finance getting to Mars. And not just the getting to Mars, you want to make sure that you get there and succeed. You want to build a colony. You want to bring people there. You want to inspire people. And that means excellent engineering. You've got to be hire the best people. And so cash flow positive business is critical. But it's not about monetizing space.
Makes sense. And think, well, of course, we need to make money to get the mission to work.
Exactly.
That's how a lot of our companies all work. Now, speaking of going to Mars and building new society or new cities on Mars, you and I are both very interested in the idea of new cities and how cities should work. This is something you've been thinking about for a while?
Yeah, totally. I mean, autonomy has really gotten me thinking a lot about new cities. What do you do? What does a city look like when you don't need the car, or you have a car, but you're not built. Your life's not built around it, because with autonomy, and then you also look at the Zoom revolution of people being able to work from home or have more flexible working environments. Okay, maybe you don't need to do that commute every day. Maybe you need to do it 3 days a week. Okay, well, how does that change the city you live in? You don't need a car. You can get it whenever you want one. Okay, you just pull out your Tesla app and it comes to you when you need it, and then it goes away when you don't need it.
And you think a lot, obviously, about making things more green with how the homes are designed?
I mean, my vision of a town would be very little roads, other than emergency access for fire trucks and ambulance, things like that, trash. But and then a car could come use those same sort of emergency alleys to come pick you up. But then the rest of it would be parks, greenways, growing fruits and vegetables growing throughout the town. That to me is a much more beautiful use of space than asphalt.
And your sense of, for you with food, is about community as well.
It's about community.
How do we build a town to make community work better?
Yeah, exactly. And for me, food is a wonderful way to build community. A town with the right energy, the right design, really thinking about how do you get people to gather more often? How do you get people to connect with each other? How do you create spaces that are both what's called competitive play, where you might kick a ball around, or cooperative play, where you might get on a swing together. And that's sort of that's the language we use in schools, where we're always trying to make sure you can have both. In a town, you want to be able to listen to music together, and you might want to sit in a park and play chess with someone. And you really want to curate activities, and we really lost that in towns. If you look at older towns, Boulder is a good example. There's a lot of activities downtown that kids can do, adults can do, that are built into the downtown. But if you go to a modern day town, which is built around the car, it's very soulless. You kind of live in your house, get in your car, go to the office, and that's kind of your life. It's I call it pod living. You're in your home pod, then your car pod, then your office pod, back to your car pod, home pod. You don't even know who your neighbor is. You never walk outside and just go for a walk. I want to. I mean, if I get involved in city planning, which I love, and I love the idea of that, I want to help cities be more about connecting with each other and connecting with your neighbor and getting to know people.
That's awesome. And a lot of people are pretty cynical about the direction things are going. You think this could bring more optimism to our society to rebuild these communities?
I am just the greatest optimist ever. I mean, it's almost to a fault, but frankly, almost is an important word because it's not. But it's so much so that if you're a pessimist and you hang out with me, you'll probably stop hanging out with me after a while. Either that or you'll have to stop being a pessimist. But I'm a real optimist. I think America is the place where we solve problems. We tackle things like climate change. We tackle things. We do it in a way that is scalable. We do it in a way that makes sense financially. We're not relying on government to solve these problems because they do need to play a role. And Biden will I think play a great role in that. And the previous administration really was fighting against the natural flow of things. It made no sense. Even the most hardcore capitalists were working on this. And so I do think that administration makes a big difference. But the real way things get done in America is through individual contribution, entrepreneurship, and those individuals contribute in a way that helps the overall society get better. And I think we're going to solve things like income inequality that way. We're going to solve things like homelessness that way. We're going to solve things like how cities are built that way. We're going to solve all of these problems, and we're going to do it the American way.
So we need to train more entrepreneurs and builders who will focus on the problems that matter.
Yeah, I mean, homelessness is a real challenge in America, and my daughter actually asked me, hey, we should try and solve that with our foundation. I'm like, money's not going to solve this problem. You could solve this problem. Do you want to dedicate your life to solving this problem? And she might think about it. She's young, still in high school, but the point is that people solve problems in America, and I love that. And the money follows people to solve a problem, and I think that attitude keeps me very optimistic about America and love the future we're all headed towards.
That's a very inspiring vision. Thank you very much, Kimbal, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Stand up, do it. Oops, now I banged my leg.
Not awkward.
Not awkward at all. That hurts.
All right.
Excellent.
Thanks.